So this morning, our community spotlight is going to be with TIP, the Trauma Intervention Program. It will be presented by Mary-Helen Wilkinson, who is a TIP volunteer. And I'll give you some of Mary Helen's bio. She is a human resource director with PHR certification. Her focus is on providing a safe, respectful, and development-focused environment for over 1,700 employees in the Treasure Valley. Mary-Helen heard about TIP from an Ada County Sheriff website. She had recently lost her father, and when she read about how TIP served the community, she realized her mom could have really used a TIP volunteer when her dad had passed. She was 8 hours away and wished that she could snap her fingers and be at her mom's side. A TIP volunteer could have been that person for her. Mary-Helen is looking for a way to serve others, or was looking for a way to serve others, and TIP felt like a beautiful secret that she wanted to share with everyone. Mary-Helen has been a fully trained and active TIP volunteer for 3 years now. Mary-Helen, we welcome you and are excited to hear about this TIP program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That was a nice introduction. Thank you. I want to say I'm really happy to learn about Learn Idaho. I'm looking forward to sharing this with a lot of people. I am new to it, and congratulations on your book. I will be looking for that.
Thank you.
So like Karen said, I'm an HR director here in the Valley, and I have a passion for people, and I'm lucky that my job lets me live that passion every day. Outside of work, I have two wonderful humans for children, and I'm a sports fan. But for the past 3 years, I have been volunteering at the Trauma Intervention Program. It's a cause close to my heart. My goal in life has always been to put good into the world, and through this work, I've been able to do that, but I've also witnessed firsthand the incredible resilience of people in the face of adversity. This experience has been incredibly rewarding for me, and it's allowed me to give back to my community in ways that are meaningful to me. So like she said, when I first learned about TIP, I had recently lost my father, and we knew my father was dying, but still my mother found herself confused and sad and unsure of those next steps. So TIP felt like a good secret that I wanted to share with people. I'm very happy to be here today sharing it with you. If you've never heard about TIP, you're not alone, first of all. So I'm going to quickly tell you what we do, and then I'll move on from there. Simply put, we respond quickly to traumatic incidents at the request of law enforcement, and that can include fire departments, police departments, coroners, and more. So I thought I'd start with our mission, and then I'll expand a little more as we go. So this is what we do on each call, regardless of the circumstances. We provide emotional first aid to survivors of tragedy in order to ease their immediate suffering and facilitate their healing and long-term recovery. And I think that'll make a little bit more sense as we go. So the next slide, please. Thank you. TIP National was founded in 1985 by Wayne Fortin. He worked in the mental health field for almost 50 years before he retired, and he's still pretty active even though he is retired. He's not clear on what retirement means, I think. Here locally, our chapter, TIP of the Treasure Valley, was established in 2015, which means that we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary next year, and we're all really excited about that. Across the country, there are 15 national affiliates. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here we are after one of our events last July called the Tiptoe, where first responders volunteer to compete pulling a fire truck, 100 feet, and who can do it the fastest. Our affiliate, TIP of the Treasure Valley, we have one paid employee and a board of directors. Currently, we have around 35 highly trained volunteers, and we meet monthly for continuing education, probably similar to you guys. At our continuing education, we learn about a variety of topics that are helpful on our calls for our survivors. We've covered topics like grief, hospice care, self-care. We've talked about helping children cope with trauma and death. We've been introduced to a variety of other community resources that we can share with our survivors depending on the circumstances. And we've heard from many of our first responder partners about their jobs and things they need to do on scene and how we might be able to support them. Like you, I'm sure, I'm really proud to be part of an organization that values training and education like this. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, we're called to scenes by first responders exclusively. That's who dispatches us, and they can call us at any time. There is at least one TIP volunteer ready to go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If they call, we go, period. And we're happy to do it. If we're on a call and another call comes in, then we go through our list and find another volunteer who's able to step in and take those calls. And to my knowledge, we've never had to say no, which really speaks to these volunteers and these people that give their time like this every month. As you can see here, our goal is to be on scene within 20 minutes of dispatch. So when we're on call, we stay ready all the time so we can get there. As the Valley expands, it has become a little more difficult, but that is still our goal, to be there quickly and support these people in their time of need. The circumstances for which we might get called out can really vary. We're called to scenes where maybe there's been an unexpected death, an injury, a death by suicide, an overdose, a car accident, house fire, apartment fire. We can accompany coroners on a death notification to support those people as they receive devastating news. In the end, regardless of why they call, if they call us, we go, and it's that simple. Once on scene, we might provide support for the survivors. We might provide support for family members, witnesses, bystanders, friends. We might be at a private home, or we might be at a place of business. Regardless of who we support or where we go, our aim is to provide a calming presence on that scene. We also might need to protect a survivor from well-meaning neighbors in that moment, or we might need to help them organize their thoughts as they process what's going on. We work with the belief that people are resilient, and we might be with them on a dark day, maybe their darkest day. The rug has really been pulled out from underneath them as we're with them, but we're there to help get them back on their feet. We provide that emotional first aid to support them in that time immediately following the trauma. While on scene, we work closely with the first responders, and they look out for us on scene when necessary, and they're wonderful partners to us. Next slide, please. So here are some of those agencies who call on TIP. As you can see, coroners, paramedics, police, fire departments, all across the Valley. And I'd like to mention one in particular. It's the Veterans Hospital. TIP of the Treasure Valley also has a partnership with our VA hospital for a special program called No Vet Dies Alone. And some of you have probably heard of this program, but if you haven't, I'll explain it. The VA calls TIP when they have a veteran who's actively dying and for whatever reason has no one with them during that time. So we volunteer, we take 4-hour shifts to sit with them at their bedside. If their friends and family are unable to be there, we're proud to be present with them so they never are alone in their final moments. Next slide, please. So a large driving force behind the creation of TIP was to prevent what's called a secondary injury on scene. This is the victim's perspective that the emergency personnel or the emergency system didn't provide the support they really needed at that time. And we know that first responders not caring is not the issue. They simply don't always have the time to provide that kind of support at that time. They have other important work to do. So we're proud to help them in that way. So our mission is to provide support for survivors in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy, but we're also proud that our work supports first responders in at least a small way. Our presence on scene frees them up to do that important work. We might work as a liaison with them. We might help ask questions that the survivor has of the first responder when the timing's right. But we're proud that when they call us, it frees them up to do some good work that they do. We also offer an 8-hour emotional first aid class that is conducted here locally and has been used by lots of agencies in our area. Next slide, please. I saw in your mission statement, I think it was the vision part, something that resonated with me as a TIP volunteer. It said, well, we are also for the community and by the community. I liked that. TIP gives support to whoever's on scene, no matter what. A few more examples of how we support our neighbors during their tragedies. Maybe a family member needs to call family members across the country to let them know what's just happened. A TIP volunteer can support them through that. I had one recently and she just said, "Can you stand with me? I have to call and give this news." And I was there for her. I was happy to do that. And I was happy to give her support, physical and emotional. Maybe a survivor doesn't know how to handle the finances, and that's what they're dealing with in that moment because their husband did that and he just died. Maybe they have questions about funeral arrangements. Maybe there's cleaning that needs to be done on the scene and they don't know how to handle that. As a TIP volunteer, we would listen, we'd help them process, and we'd also provide resources for them to use for more practical solutions. Sometimes a survivor just needs a witness to their grief, and that's what we provide. These people in our community often don't remember our names, truly. They don't remember what TIP is or who we are, and that's okay with us. It's not about us. We're there to care. It's about our neighbors who need help experiencing something that most people in life will go through. We administer emotional first aid, and like I said, we also provide resources for them to use later once we're gone, and we leave those with them to use when maybe it's more conducive to taking in the information that we leave. Anyone we see on scene is also given the chance to receive some free counseling as well, should they decide that they need it. Next slide, please. A little bit more about the volunteers. We are from all walks of life. Some people come to us because they were in the first responder system and have been exposed to TIP that way. Some people just hear it from a friend. I stumbled on it from the Ada County Sheriff website through the course of my work. Like I said, we are always on call. We all take 3 shifts a month and they're 12 hours each, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then we have that continuing education. So we spend roughly 40 hours a month volunteering with TIP. And we all are screened, we pass background checks, and we have an intensive training academy. So we're really set up for success to provide the support that we want to provide on these calls. Next slide, please. This is just a new logo that we have for our local affiliate, which I messed up because there's more on the bottom, but sorry, I'm not a PowerPoint pro, but it's nice. I thought I'd share with you 2 of our stats from 2023. We served over 1,100 clients when they called us to support people last year, and we averaged about 160 minutes on each scene. So when we go, we really spend time and we make sure these people are back on their feet before we go. And we know they're going to be okay. They don't know it when we leave, but we know that they're going to be okay. And that is all I have for you. I think I might have flown through that, but I appreciate your time. I love sharing TIP. There's a QR code if you'd like a link to our site. I don't know if people ask questions or if I can do anything else.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions of Mary-Helen? That was wonderful. I loved hearing what you had to say. Does anybody have anything that you'd like to ask? I had a question, but I think you covered it. I was wondering, what is the typical time that you spend on a scene when you're there? I realize you're not rushing through that and your average was 160. Would you say it's a little more or a little less?
I have experienced both sides personally on my calls. There is a feeling that comes over the call as the survivor or our client works through whatever they've experienced, where it feels natural and it feels okay to go. We work to find their source of strength and find what that is and help support them in that way. Sometimes they have people come to support them, family members, and so we know they're in good hands. And but I would say 1.5 to 2 hours is pretty average.
Yeah. Well, what the work you do is amazing. I'm retired from law enforcement, so I'll tell you, it's always appreciated when you guys show up on the scene. The work you do is incredible.
Thank you. I have to say, one of the wildest moments I ever had was I was leaving a scene and a police officer crossed the street. He was going the other way. He crossed the street. He turned around and I thought he was going to ask me to help somebody else or tell me something else. And he just gave me the most genuine thank you I'd ever received. And it blew me away because he was there working so hard and
Yeah.
doing his work. I was honored to be there to help, but it was remarkable. I appreciated it.
Well, thank you so much. I know from all of us, we really appreciate all that you do, and it definitely touches the base of where we all come from as well. So
There
thank
is
you so
one
much.
question
Oh,
in
perfect.
the chat. There is one question in the chat. Is
I
are
missed
tip
it.
sources available in other areas of Idaho, Mary Helen?
We currently offer them in the Valley exclusively, I believe. So, I think she has traveled to Valley County to provide this training. Please don't hold me to that. And maybe something else could be arranged through that. If you reach out on the website, we have the Training Academy link. If you want to volunteer, that's what you would click. And there's a separate link for the emotional first aid course. I don't know the range that she goes to teach the class.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.